Good evening. My name is Charles Schultz. I'm a member of the Masters of Coaching Education program at Ohio University, and today we're going to discuss a little bit about psychological interventions for coaching and improved performance. Along the way here, as we continued through this course, we've learned a little bit about sports psychology interventions and how they work in building some of the things you want to do as a coach and developing your program. So first things first is what are interventions? And applied psychology interventions are the actions performed to bring about change in people. So as we go through this presentation here, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about specifically what I do with my softball program and how those interventions may or may not work, and some of the things to understand as far as positives as well as limitations that may occur. So for me, 3 interventions for softball. First one would be a team building intervention. Team building is obviously a huge thing for all sports and all avenues. And I feel like if you leave team building out of your practice planning and out of your sports psychology focus, you're losing something valuable with your team. For me specifically, I want to focus on the task and cohesion interventions and how they relate to team building and what it means for my program. Secondly, I have exercise intervention as a exercise professional. In my day-to-day, I feel that exercise intervention is huge. It has effects on stress, performance, body image. It also plays a role in team building and cohesion, as we will talk about a little bit more here in a few minutes. The last thing on the list here is self-confidence intervention. And with self-confidence, the reason why I have that on the list is with softball, there are so many ups and downs. There's so many swings that you can't really control. And it's such a failure-based sport that if you don't have self-confidence, if you're not confident in your abilities, it's going to be a long road for you. So with this, I want to focus on a little bit more on mental toughness, self-talk, and routines, and how they can play a beneficial role in getting you prepared to succeed on a regular basis. So as we move forward here, let's start with the team building aspect of things. Team building, from the beginning here, we're going to start with the social interventions part of it and how we implement it at my school and with what my program does. But first thing is social oriented techniques include things such as team campouts, ropes and challenge courses, social get-togethers outside of the sport context, personal growth experiences. So for me and what we try to accomplish with my team, we do a team cookout every year at the end of the fall. It's a great way to mark the end of the fall season and prepare ourselves for the winter. Get the families out together while the weather's still a little bit nice and have a nice little way to send people off. And you see a lot of the girls and the families get together and hang out and, build closer relationships and bonds away from the game a little bit. Another big one that we have coming up right now is our Christmas party. We've started planning for that. This year we're doing a Secret Santa. This has been fun for me to watch them go from the white elephant, which is just a general gift for whoever and whoever gets it, it's fine, to the Secret Santa, where they want to get to know the girl that they're giving a present for. They want it to mean more. They want it to have a deeper and more connected feeling for when they open it. And I find that to be very interesting and neat to see how that has evolved from a gag gift to here, I want you to have this. This is nice. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. When our season starts here, we usually take a spring trip. This year, unfortunately, the way our schedule's laid out is we're not actually allowed to play games during our spring break, which is really kind of silly. But the value that happens from our spring trip, we've decided to do a camping excursion instead during our spring trip. And with our trips, we take the varsity team. They stay together in a house. They get away from their families. They get away from the school. They get away from their boyfriends. They get away from all the other distractions, and they really just get to spend some time together. Amazing bonding experiences. They play games. They do challenges. They eat and hang out. We have them pair up in different rooms so that they're not staying with their same friends all the time. But it's neat to see them grow and get together and feel a stronger bond as the spring trip comes to an end. The final piece of the social interventions that we implement is we really promote and encourage them to do non-sport activities together. So this year we're going to do a self-defense class for the girls. In the past, they go to sporting events together, they go to the movies together, they have sleepovers and weekly cookouts, and not necessarily cookouts, but like a pasta night or something like that. And these non-sport activities allow them to get to bond and know each other and develop relationships outside of the sport environment. And that's kind of a neat way to see some of those social interventions come into play. On the task-oriented side of it, task-oriented interventions include more like team goal setting, team communication, understanding and conforming to team roles and norms. So with that in mind, every year we do a goal setting day. We have the girls come in, they write down their personal goals, the team goals, some of the expectations that they want to have for themselves when it comes to practice and games. And this is a neat way for them to kind of put into writing what it is they want to accomplish for the year, and gives them a destination to set their sights on. We normally do that on one of our Chalk Talk days. We do this once a week. This is another part of our task-oriented interventions. We get them together once a week and we talk about topics that are relative to sports performance. We do some sports psychology stuff. We do some team building stuff. But the topics will range from, what our culture is in our program, practice expectations. We did some skits the other day that were, representative of what are a good teammate and a bad teammate and how the skits are different. And it was kind of fun to see them have a good time with that. In the past, we've talked coping strategies, game strategies, game planning, routines, things of that nature. And it's a really good time. And the girls seem to really buy into those weekly meetings. And it's usually one of our highest turnouts as far as attendance, because we are in a period where it's not required for them to show up. So the last thing is once we develop the teams, once we make the teams, we have an expectation meeting. On the day that they get assigned to the team that they're on, we talk to each girl individually. We explain to them what their role on the team is, what our expectations are for them, what we think that they can accomplish this year. We give them a basic framework for where we see them now and what we think they can be doing for us as the season goes on. The other thing that we do is we then talk to the entire team about expectations for what it is to show up on practice on time, what to wear, how to act. This really allows everyone to be on the same page and understand what it is expected of them and their teammates. So that's a really important piece of the task-oriented interventions. Excuse me. As we talk more about some of the analysis here and the breakdown of what it is for the interventions for team building, one of the important things to understand is it has been shown that both task and cohesion play an important role in team success. Where previously it had been believed that task cohesion was more important, there have been results recently that have suggested that the importance of both the task and the team cohesiveness as being important. Karen and colleagues from Weinberg and Gold's book found that increases in both task and social cohesion were associated with increases in performance. And I find that to be interesting, as with softball, it's not necessarily a individual sport, but it's also not necessarily a team sport. So I think that's why when we look at what we're trying to accomplish with these implementations and interventions, it's important to include both task and cohesion. You want a good, close-knit team, but at the same time, they also have to have expectations for themselves and tasks that they're supposed to follow in guidelines. So I also believe that when you are looking at team building, it's important to understand the fundamental elements of team building. There's a lot of talks and studies where coaches believe that team building is more or less bringing a group together, establishing mutual goals, unifying individuals to achieve these goals. And the activities that we do should be a combination of social, physical, and psychological. We do a lot of stuff to try to build that social connectiveness. I will talk later about the exercise piece and how the physical adds to that team cohesion, which I think is interesting and fun to watch. And then we also do spend time with the psychological, and that's part of the last piece that we're actually going to talk about here is with the self-confidence, and developing routines and developing good self-talk and understanding how to battle through the adversity and overcome the difficult moments and how to cope. So I also believe that, team building is crucial because it brings the group together. It gives them a relationship that's more than just the sport. And the closer a team becomes, the more they care about each other, the less they show their particular ego. In the book by Stolberg and Magnus, there's a line about Victor Stretcher believing that we focus on something greater than ourselves. We are able to then minimize our ego, and in turn, we can overcome the fears and anxieties of physiological protective mechanisms that often hold us back from achieving major breakthroughs. Now, what I took away from this was that we often care about failure because it's embarrassing, but if we are close enough with our team and we build that relationship, we're not as afraid to be perceived as failing in their eyes, because we're focused on something greater than ourselves. We're focused on their success, our success, instead of just my success. And I think that's one of the crucial pieces of team building that needs to be understood when you go to develop good team building strategies. So some of the positives of team building is obviously you get that increased cohesion and performance. You get that closeness. You get that development of a bond that is greater than just one. It's together. It's stronger relationships, and then these relationships lead to that feeling of togetherness and cohesion, which will then lead to hopefully future success athletically. Another positive that occurs when it comes to getting to know your teammates outside of sport is they become people to you. They're not just teammates. They're not just a cog in the clockwork that needs to work together to make you successful. They're humans, and we care about them. We start to understand them. We genuinely get to see and want them to succeed. And we begin to lose sight of our own personal egos, and we begin to perform something greater than ourselves. And I think that that's a neat piece, is that over time, this can lead to greater cohesion and increased success by letting go of our own personal egos and our own personal goals, and focus more on what it means to be a good teammate and how that closeness can bring that out. One of the major limitations that I see with team building is that there is no simple formula. It makes it difficult. So if I implement a team building strategy and another coach tries to do the same thing, it's not necessarily going to work because our personalities are different. Our team's personalities are different. And it is it's hard to then determine what is the best route to do these. So a lot of it is trial and error. A lot of it is, okay, this worked this time. What can we do to tweak and make it maybe a little bit better? Now there are some basic ones that seem to work across the board in most instances, but you do have to monitor and then be able to adapt along the way. One of the big things too is that, our results will be dependent on the beliefs of the coach and his or her ability to gauge the atmosphere of the team. So like I said a minute ago, we must be able to see if our team is buying into what we're trying to give them. And if not, are we willing to make an adjustment to help them? The next part of this, which we're going to talk about here now, is the exercise and implementation that we use at our program at Pickerington. So there are four main things that we utilize when it comes to implementing our exercise program. So we do have a strength program that runs year round. As a strength professional, that makes it something that I spend a lot of time with. I really want to try to get them to consistently see physical changes and growth in their performance. And I believe a huge part of that is exercise. So during the fall, in the winter right now, we do 2 times a week. It's free for the girls. It's provided by the program. And they come in and they're working through different exercises. And then as we go through these workouts, which is just the basic part of it, we do some things inside of those workouts to make it more team building oriented, more challenging, and developing some of the other pieces of what we were talking about a little bit ago with these interventions. So one of the big things that we need to make sure is that the workouts need to translate to success on the field, feelings of improvement, experience of cohesion, and most of all, I believe they need to be fun. And that's where these other activities come in. So the first one that we're about to do here in the next few weeks is called the 12 Days of Christmas. It's a workout that I developed that is a competition-based challenge workout, as you will. We will dress up in holiday wear, play Christmas music, and the workout goes to the 12 Days of Christmas song. So on the first day of Christmas, you do a workout. On the second day of Christmas, you do day 2 and day 1, 3, 2, 1, all the way up to 12 until you go through everything. First person to finish, they win. Probably give out candy canes this year or something silly like that. But it's interesting because this is an extremely difficult workout. It's challenging. I think only 3 people finished it last year, but it's something that the girls look forward to. They've been talking about it since October. There's excitement around it. There's fear of it, obviously, but at the same time, I think they see the value in the growth that comes from it. So it's been exciting. The next part of it is the Road to Firestone Challenge. So Firestone is where the state championships are held every year, and we do a challenge right before the end of the winter workouts where it's a team-based competition. The seniors pick their teams and then they compete against each other to earn points, various events. And then each challenge leads up to the struggles and the difficulties that we'll face along the way and working together and teamwork that's necessary to win a state championship. This part in this particular exercise is great for team cohesion and togetherness and feeling as a part of something greater than yourself. And because you can't do it on your own in this, there's going to be things that they just physically aren't able to do without the help of their teammates. And I find this to be a fun exercise to watch them develop a closer relationship with their teammates. Another one that's I didn't necessarily like doing at first, but now I really do, is the max out day. So we do a couple max outs throughout the year, and this allows my girls to see all their hard work is paying off. Most of them, especially when they come in as freshmen, don't have a lot of experience lifting weights, so their numbers aren't great. But by the time their freshman year comes to an end, they're putting up much better numbers than they started with, and it's fun to see that confidence and that excitement grow as they see those numbers increase. One of the big things, though, and one of the major reasons why I chose exercise is one of the interventions is because of its effects that it has on us. There is an obvious effect on how we perceive stress, anxiety, and depression primarily. While a lot of these studies are inconclusive due to the nature of how the studies are represented, exercise appears to be associated with positive changes in moods, states, as well as reductions in anxiety and depression. And although we can't really place the actual cause-effect relationship of these studies because it has not been established, regular exercise is definitely associated with reduction in anxiety and depression. And that's a huge piece, especially with working with high school age girls. Can we build confidence? Can we keep them strong? Can we build them to be these strong women that they are and utilize this athleticism, but then also carry that confidence out into the world? I think that's a huge thing that we lose out on a lot of times when we don't pay attention to the way that these girls see themselves. As an athlete, sometimes you're an outcast, and this is a way to feel included as part of a team, and then also to release some of this anxiety and depression. Another big thing with girls is body image. So according to Weinberg and Gould, exercise has clearly and consistently been linked to a positive psychological changes in self-esteem, self-concept, and body image. This is critical for effective psychological functioning. So as we move forward as athletes and as people, it's important to have body image confidence. Um, Female athletes tend to be a little bit more hard on themselves than male athletes, but there are definite body image issues for both men and female athletes. So a good workout regimen and a strong positive body image can lead to a higher self-esteem, less mood swings, more self-confidence, um, a chance to perform up to the abilities that you have. And that's huge. And I think that's important to remember. And it's another byproduct of these exercise programs. The last thing about exercise, which I think I touched on a little earlier, was the fact that it adds to our social cohesion. Exercise is challenging, and when performed right in these team settings, it can really build a closeness. So research demonstrates that athletes who play for a positive-oriented coach like their teammates better, they enjoy their athletic experience more, they like their coaches more, they have a greater team cohesion. Those are all important things when you think about the success of a strong team, their cohesion, their development as people, and that confidence that's necessary to be successful as a person in the world. An interesting theory of direction of causality refers to whether cohesion leads to performance success or performance success leads to cohesion. I think that in either case, exercise programs completed as a team can help to build that cohesion in a social setting during these exercise programs, as well as during competitive settings, and lead to cohesion due to performance success and improvement. So as they get stronger, as they see that growth and development, as they move forward in the programming and exercises become easier and they become faster and more powerful, that success and that togetherness as doing it as one leads to social cohesion as well as personal success and less anxiety and a stronger body image. So some of the positives of implementing a good exercise intervention is performance confidence, and then the other one is cohesion. And so we talked about cohesion quite a bit now, so that's obviously a huge positive. But for this, as athletes get stronger and they build confidence, you see the beginning stages of self-confidence being built. So this is crucial as, you have a young person come in and they're not quite sure of themselves and they're a little bit quiet. And as they get stronger, that you see them open up. And then they start to bond with their teammates who are also starting to develop this newfound strength in what they are capable of. And then athletic development is the building block for performance improvement. So as they get stronger, you see that translate onto the field, and then self-confidence just starts to blossom. There's also the team aspect, which I touched on earlier. And I think that's a huge piece that we need to continue to build off of. Is good, strong relationships lead to a stronger performance outcome as you move through a season. So one of the biggest limitations I find with exercise, and especially in the team setting, is the individualization of it all. It's an important but difficult component to structuring sport and exercise environments, and that is to individualize coaching and teaching. It's really easy to get caught up in, here's your workout, go. Sometimes we lose sight of the fact that not everybody's on the same page and not everybody's up to the same level of fitness. And it's important as a strength coach to be able to provide programs that are challenging for each person, but not going to alienate some of the weaker girls or weaker players, and also not going to bore some of the stronger ones. So there's got to be that balance between being capable of doing the exercises and not being, difficult enough. And I think that's crucial. So the last one of the interventions that I want to talk about is self-confidence. And like I talked about earlier, is primarily how to implement the visualization routines and and the mental toughness part in preparation. So what we do as far as the implementation part of it is we provide the preseason workouts and practices. When we come to implementing the confidence building interventions, it's crucial to utilize and maintain all year round. There are so many ups and downs in playing softball, baseball, failure-based sports, that confidence has a way of just riding this roller coaster of up and down. So Ways that we try to build confidence is to embrace a culture that encourages failure as a learning tool. So all of our practices, all of our games, um, all of our situations that we try to mimic, um, it is designed to allow failure to occur and learning to be developed. I often, with my particular side groups that I do with the outfielders, I want them to fail. I try to make it so hard that they can't succeed. And then I have that talk where, you know what, so what? But was the effort there? Can we focus on the effort that you put forward, and then can we use this failure as a stepping stone to success? I also do this with the workouts. I have them do exercises and things that are just probably not something that they're going to be able to do. Obviously, I keep within reason so that they don't get hurt, but I want them to challenge themselves and hold strong even when they don't think that they're capable of succeeding. And that's a big piece of that development. So the other big thing that we implement is I'm a huge believer in pregame and in-game routines. There is so much that we can't control, and there's so much that we have no say over, but there's one thing that we always have the ability to do, and that is to control our routines. As you look at like a pre-bat routine, what do you say to yourself? What does your talk look like? What is your visualization? What are your steps? What song do you have in your mind? When you get to the box, what do you do? And those are all important things to make us consistent, and consistency leads to confidence. And that's a huge piece there. So, and the last thing too is we take a part of post-practice and pre-game to visualize. Seeing yourself succeed is often a valuable tool that will lead to future success. Having a big dream and a clear vision of what it will look like while pursuing competitive excellence always inspires greatness. So as we look through this analysis of what it means to focus on some of these self-confidence measures, first thing I want to look at is mental toughness and preparation. It's often believed that when two equally talented athletes face off, it's the more mentally tough that prevails. But what is mental toughness? How is it achieved? I mean, that's the question is what do we do to get there? So Lohr provides a short, simple definition of mental toughness, saying that mental toughness is the ability to consistently perform toward our upper range of our talent and skill regardless of competitive circumstances. I like this, but I feel it falls short of the full understanding of mental preparation and toughness, because there has to be an ability to cope as well as emotional flexibility for when things go wrong. Because no matter what you do, there are going to be moments where you're feeling really good, and then something happens that causes a shift. And mental tough people are able to perform when they're feeling below their best. And that's important too, is to have that extra piece added to it. A huge piece of self-confidence, in my opinion, is self-talk. However, self-talk can also be detrimental if it's not done properly. So self-talk basically is an effective technique to control thoughts and to influence feelings. Thoughts and feelings can influence self-confidence as well as performance. This is big, and it's another important factor to consider when talking about self-talk. How can it affect athletes during high-stress moments to decrease anxiety? If we use our words and we use our thoughts to calm ourselves down, we have this ability to slow the game down and to bring things back to a more natural, neutral state. Athletes should have well-practiced self-talk, imagery, goal settings, skills for coping with anxiety. My personal belief is that self-talk can be crucial to success in sport, especially sports that are high failure sports. Because when you fail, the ability to talk yourself back off the ledge and bring yourself back to a positive state is crucial for the next time you get an opportunity. One of the really neat things here is, according to recent meta-analysis of 32 previously published sports psychology studies, an article that was published in 2011 by Dr. I'm going to screw this one up, Hatz Georgiadis, that's a mouthful. says the mind guides action. If we succeed in regulating our thoughts, then this will help our behavior. I believe in this fully. Our thoughts guide our behaviors, and then our behaviors determine our success. The last part of this is routine. I've learned playing years of baseball and now coaching softball that routines allow us to find consistency in an inconsistent world. They allow us to be steady in our process and our progress. So a routine is like a funnel that channels your thoughts and actions before a game, at bat, or pitch to where they need to be for you to have your best chance of playing well. So sport is often unpredictable, creates anxiety. There's lots of stress in many different types of situations, in many different types of ways. On the softball field, our routine is one of the few things that we can control. I said that a few times earlier, is that, we don't have a lot of say on whether or not we hit a line drive and somebody makes a diving catch. You can't control that. Can't control a bad call, but you can control your routine. You can control how you handle those moments. According to Revisa and Hansen, it can be a powerful source of confidence. And that's the crucial piece of this, is that the routines help to build confidence, and that's going to allow for you to be successful. So some of the positives, you can use self-talk to reverse poor play. So a bad play is going to happen. You're gonna make an error. You're gonna strike out. You're gonna miss a free throw. You're gonna fumble the football. But it's an ability to reverse negative play with positive self-talk that allows our athletes to reverse the direction they're going back on track. Do we let one bad moment spiral out of control, or can we bring ourselves back to a positive state of mind? These routines, that we develop over time to go along with these positive self-talk builds confidence. So think of it, your pre-pitch routine, your pre-at-bat routine. All athletes use routines to prepare to compete. And what is your routine to be successful? Because when you have a good routine and you have this consistent state of what you do, you have a way of getting back to putting yourself at ease and preparing to compete. One of the limitations that I wanted to focus on with this particular talk that we were having here is a negative self-talk. Self-talk is crucial if you do it right, but if you start to think negative thoughts, you start to bring yourself into negative self-talk. Negative self-fulfilling prophecies are psychological barriers that lead to a vicious cycle. The expectations of failure lead to actual failure, which lowers self-image and increases expectations of failure. This is a common situation that occurs. It's something that I've seen happen over and over again, where I can't hit this pitch, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, and I'm not good, I suck. And the next thing you know, you're turning into the person that you were talking about being, even if that's not you. So correct your self-talk, make sure it's positive, continue to move that in the positive direction, and you're going to see negative moments not last as long. So in conclusion, I believe it's important to understand that sports psychology is still relatively new and it's in its infancy. And most of these things are mainly theories that are being put into practice. So while implementing your own interventions, it's important to monitor how your team responds to determine how you will continue to go forward. There is no cookie cutter option out there. You can't take what I do and apply it and hope that it works the exact same way. Each coach is going to implement something that's going to respond. Their team's going to respond differently. A lot of times it will be received different based on the relationship the coach has with their players, as well as the personality of the coach. So it's important to monitor these things, to pay attention to how your interventions are going, and then to, basically learn to adapt. So in closing, I would say to continue to learn and educate yourself on the various ways to implement these interventions so that your team can see some of the psychological benefits of sports psychology. But don't be afraid to adapt them to fit your style and what your team needs. I think that as you go forward, you're going to find that what I do, what you do, what your coach down the street does will all need to be different. And if you pay attention to what's going on within your team, you can make the appropriate adjustments necessary to be successful, and then to allow your team to be successful as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate talking to you. I hope this was something that you benefited from, and look forward to talking to you again in the future. Thanks.